Hello, everybody. This is Cherry Blossom Inc., and I am here with some more spooky, scary Sunday. We're gonna get into it with another one of horror shorts parties. Amazing, many amazing videos on horror, and this is based on a true story. Let's get into it. And like and subscribe to Horror Shorts Party.
I grew up in Denver, Colorado my whole life. At the time, my parents had just bought me an iPhone for my birthday. I was of course excited to finally have my own phone. They bought it for me so that I could communicate with friends and family. I would also use it to listen to music while I walked to and from school. I usually walked every day, as the school was only a few minutes away from our house. Everything was great until one day. I was walking home from school, messing around with my iPhone and listening to music, when, out of nowhere, two masked and hooded men jumped out at me. Before I could do anything, they charged at me and wrestled me to the ground. Then one of them held me down while the other tried to pry the phone out of my hands. I screamed for help, but there was no one around. I kept wailing for help as the two men got my phone and both ran away to a nearby getaway car. The next thing I knew, they were driving away with my phone. I was incredibly shaken up and immediately ran home to tell my parents. They called the police and made a report, but the police told them that there wasn't much they could do. There was sadly no surveillance footage in the area, and I couldn't give a very good description of the men since they were masked and hooded. I was completely devastated that I had lost my new iPhone. It didn't help that my parents were kind of hard on me. They didn't even buy me a new phone because they were afraid that I would get robbed again. I was pretty depressed about it. I felt like an outcast at school since everyone else had phones and they were always texting each other. A few days later, I told my two friends what had happened. They couldn't believe the situation either. That's when one of them suggested that we use the Find My iPhone feature to track the phone down. I was kind of skeptical and didn't think that we'd actually be able to find it, but I figured it was worth a shot. So, my friend pulled up the information on another device, and to my surprise, he was actually able to track down the phone. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't even far away either. The three of us walked to the location and found that the coordinates led to a house in a neighborhood close by. At first, I figured we should just call the cops and let them handle it, but they didn't even seem like they had cared about the situation before. We decided that we would come back to the house later that night and handle the situation ourselves. I wanted revenge, and we knew that we were the only ones who could get it. We went through a few different scenarios of what we could do. Finally, we decided on a plan. We would mask up and set the house on fire. We were all a little hesitant and scared, but we agreed that we had to do it. So, later that night, I waited for my parents to fall asleep. Then I snuck out of the house while wearing a mask and hood. I then met my friends at the nearby park. Then the three of us started walking toward the house with our supplies. We had all brought gasoline and other products to make sure that the house would burn. We didn't talk to each other much as we walked towards the house. We were all too nervous. We all knew that what we were doing was something dangerous, but it felt good to take matters into our own hands. When we got to the house, we got even more quiet. We slowly snuck towards it and began pouring the gasoline. Once we were done, there was only one thing left to do. Instantly, the house burst into flames. We all ran away as fast as we could before anyone could spot us. Then we each headed to our separate houses. When I got home, I snuck inside and went to my bedroom. My parents were still asleep. They had no idea what I had just done. I climbed into bed and tried to sleep it off, but my heart wouldn't stop pounding, and my anxiety was too high. I heard sirens drive by a few minutes later. I tried to ignore them and just focus on falling asleep. By the time the morning came, I was still awake. I had just laid in bed all night, scared that someone was going to come knocking at the door, but no one ever came. We had gotten away with it. I got out of bed and started getting ready for school like any other day. Then I checked the news. There was footage of the fire on TV. Apparently the house had burned down almost completely, killing a family of 5 that was inside. I went to school after that and saw my friends there. We all acted like nothing happened. None of us said a word about the night before. We just tried to put it behind us. But every night since, I couldn't fall asleep. I couldn't stop thinking about the footage of the fire that I had seen on TV and the family that had been inside. Months later, my friends and I were arrested for starting the fire. The cops had found security footage of us outside the house, and they were able to get the IP addresses of anyone that had searched the home's address on Google. We were all charged with arson and murder and sentenced to prison. What made it all the worse was that I found out that it wasn't even the people that robbed me. We had tracked down the iPhone to the wrong location. As I went through everything involved with the trial and sentencing, I couldn't help but think about how it had all been over an iPhone. All of that for just a phone. This story was inspired by a horrific incident regarding a 20-year-old Colorado male named Kevin Bui, who faces up to 60 years in prison for taking out an innocent family of 5 by setting fire to the wrong home. In a barbaric revenge plot over his stolen iPhone, Bui pleaded guilty to igniting the late-night blaze in a Denver neighborhood in August 2020, after using the Find My iPhone app to track his stolen phone to a general area. Bui, who was 16 at the time, was portrayed by the prosecutor as the ringleader of the 3 friends who plotted the inferno that incinerated the Senegalese family, which were all tragically taken away in the blaze. 3 other people broke bones while escaping by jumping from the 2nd floor of the home in the middle of the night. Surveillance video has captured Bui and his 2 friends wearing full face masks and dark hoodies when they set the fire to the home. Police fingered the trio as suspects after obtaining a search warrant and obtaining their IP address that had searched the home's address within 15 days of the fire. The suspects were arrested about 5 months after the blaze. All 3 were sentenced accordingly.
Wow. That is just very, very sad. I can't believe that happened and they decided to do that over a phone. No matter what happens, even if you get your stuff stolen, you can always raise money and try to buy a new one if possible. And technology and a phone, that's like not even worth, getting upset or angry about. Like completely to do something that horrible. I mean, it is justified to be mad, but you shouldn't go around doing stuff like that to people, and you should let the cops handle it, not go and do things on your own without thinking about it. Literally. Next video.
I've been working at Dollar Tree for a few years now. I work from the afternoon until close 5 days a week, so I barely have any time to go out with friends. Even when I do have the time, the job is so soul-sucking that I don't have the energy. My coworker for 90% of my shifts is this other woman, Karen. She's not as bad as a stereotypical Karen, but I think she will be once she hits middle age. I'll just say that she and I don't have the greatest workplace chemistry. Most days, it's just me and Karen running the place, doing all the work while our boss just sits in his office doing piss all, if he's even there. One Sunday night, things started out as usual. It was an hour before closing. The boss had already taken off. Karen was running the register, and I was sweeping the aisles, trying to get a head start on our closing tasks. The store was nearly empty, just fluorescent lights and dingy white tiles, and the same shelves I have to stock every single day. That's when I heard a customer coming in. I continued sweeping the aisle, then moved on to the next. This one was in the middle of the store where I could see right to the entrance, and when I glanced down the aisle to see who had entered, I saw one of the most disturbing things ever. It was a man who looked insane, holding a huge machete at his side. Worse, he was staring right at me. He looked to be standing right by the register, but it didn't seem that Karen was there. I thought she must have gone to the bathroom. I was alone with this man. He may have been over 50 feet away, but there wasn't a single person or obstacle between us. I was terrified. I stopped sweeping, refusing to take my eyes off him before he looked away from me. But he didn't. He kept his gaze fixed directly on me. We stared at each other for almost a minute. Suddenly, he burst forward. He sprinted so fast that he closed nearly half the distance between us before I could even react. I dropped the broom and ran back to the office. The man was inches away from me as I got in and slammed the door shut. I put my entire body weight into the door, trying to keep him from getting in as I found the lock in the darkness and flipped it. Once it was locked, I stepped away. A moment later, the machete came right through the door. I screamed in panic, watching the machete hack through the cheaply made door like it was made of cardboard. I thought about what I could do to keep him from getting in. I then swept everything off my boss's desk and flipped it up on its side long ways, then jammed it up against the door. It was something I would have struggled with on any other occasion, but the adrenaline in my blood unlocked more strength than I ever thought I had. Seconds before I thought the door would surely be chopped to pieces, the hacking suddenly stopped. There was silence again. It was so quiet I could hear myself about to cry. Finally, I had the sense to take out my phone and dial 911.
Oh, please. There's a man trying to kill me with a machete at the Dollar Tree. Please help me.
The 911 operator continued to ask me questions, but I soon couldn't hear any of it. All I could hear were the sounds coming from the other side of the store. I realized that the man had walked away from me because he had found himself another target, and she was screaming for her life.
Hurry! Please hurry! He's gonna kill her!
I broke down in tears, hiding in a dark corner of the office. The screams eventually stopped. I didn't know whether to go out and help or wait for the cops. I expected him to come back for me. I felt I was only waiting to meet the same fate as my coworker. Yet somehow, he never came. I didn't know if he was still there. I just stood there frozen in the room, puzzled by everything that was going on. After many minutes of terror in the office, some police officers finally knocked on what was left of the door and got me out. Unfortunately, as they escorted me out of the store, I saw what that man had done. I saw what was left of Karen. Her body was in pieces, mangled and torn up. It was an unthinkable destruction of what was once a decent human being. I collapsed in shock and vomited on the floor right then and there. The cops had to carry me out. They found the killer about an hour later. He was only a few blocks away. When they asked me if I had any connection to him, or if I knew if Karen did, I said no. I had never seen that man before. He just came into my place of work one day and decided he was going to take out the first person he saw. I don't get it. There was no motive at all. Just insanity. Just evil. The Dollar Tree didn't survive the bad press from the incident. My boss was forced to close the store not long after it happened. It didn't help that I quit the day up. I can't imagine ever stepping foot inside of a Dollar Tree ever again, much less spending an 8-hour shift in one. Just the sight of one makes my stomach turn. This story was inspired by a horrific incident regarding a woman who was hacked to death by a machete-wielding madman while working her job at a Dollar Tree, just less than 2 months after she married the love of her life. The newlywed, 22-year-old Ohio woman Karis Riebel was taken out Sunday at the dollar store in Upper Sandusky while working a shift on New Year's Day. Cops were called to the scene at 4:25 p.m. Shortly after, 27-year-old Bethel Beckley was said to have entered the establishment. Upon arriving, officers came across the grisly scene and found Riebel's remains on the store floor. Her attacker, however, was nowhere to be found. Within the hour, cops tracked down Beckley about a mile from the store and immediately arrested him. In a GoFundMe account set up to help Riebel's husband with funeral expenses, his aunt, Amber Geyser, revealed that the pair had been newlyweds. It's unclear if any relationship existed between the victim and the suspect. The Wyandotte County Major Crimes Unit is currently investigating the incident. The man has since been charged accordingly.
Man, that is wow, that is so messed up. Things people choose to do in their minds. Man, I pray that the husband doing all right, even after all this mess. Well, this has been Cherry Blossom Ink with some spooky, scary someday. I am signing out. I'll see you all another time. Bye, subscribers.